Hello everyone, Parasite7 here, back with more Bloons TD Battles 2. And so this match was played before the 1.1.1 update. Basically what that update did was just basically nerf Dartling Engineer Heli. Blue Trap now only makes $500 per I guess trap being filled versus 700 as it was before. Chinook's initial cooldown was also increased, I think from like 15 seconds to 20 seconds. I think Dartling Oh yeah, Darling Hydro Rocket Pods was made more expensive, and I think also some minor tweaks to that as well. And so this match I played a bit before then. This was before I was like really unfamiliar of how to actually utilize Churchill. So this is one of the first matches I actually played with Churchill. So I guess my line of thinking right here was kind of hoping that Churchill and Ice Shards would be enough to take down most rushes, because man, Churchill can pop Frozen Bloods naturally. So I figured that maybe Churchill would be pretty good, I guess, for taking out most rushes. Again, I wasn't really sure how to like fully utilize Churchill, and I definitely won't really be using Churchill for attack Ice Village, as I don't think like this strategy can fully utilize Churchill in the early game. So in this match, I thankfully got the opportunity to, I guess, play against, a Darling Engineer Heli player. As again, I hear, a lot about this strat, being incredibly like overpowered, or not really overpowered, just being like incredibly strong. So I guess it was kind of fun to see like how firsthand, what I guess I could do against it. He's not really rushing me with anything, I do feel like I have a glaring weakness to Camel Purples right about now, even though I do have Camel Purple Detection. I'm not really sure if Churchill and Ice Shards would be enough in order to actually take that down. Even like for round 13, he could probably rush me Region Rainbows, but I guess it's kind of whatever. It doesn't really matter. But anyways, I was just kind of watching him very closely, seeing what he was doing and what I could potentially rush him with. Takai's Village is a very, I guess, it's a lot stronger of a late game strat than I give it credit for. Remember in a lot of previous videos I kept saying, Takai's Village is not a late game strat, it's not meant for late game, although you can use it late game. I don't really agree with that saying anymore, as, Takai's Village I find, can absolutely shred, even like, hyper late game. Like, like even like from round 35, if you keep, buying and reselling Homeland and all that, you can definitely survive for a pretty long time, late game. And that's something I just never really give it credit for, because I try to avoid going late game if I can. I generally don't like going late game. It's not really fun for me, as again, my late game is literally just spamming 204 overdrives around the map under like MIBs and whatever. But I was definitely watching him, seeing what could I rush him with. And he doesn't seem too interested in rushing me, so I took advantage of that and got a Monkey Town on round 16, which is actually kind of crazy. I'm definitely going to need as much money as possible, because he's definitely going to have a lot more income than I am. So I'm going to have to be able to defend, his fortified bats, his fortified TDT rushes, that I'm just going to need as much money as I can in order to, buy and resell Homeland as much as possible. So here I try to force him to get like a Moab shove, or just like, have him do something. That ended up not working. I ended up losing money in the process, although he ended up buying Rocket Storm, so I'm guessing he did like I guess it was just terrible desync, he didn't do like as well as I thought he did. So I guess, he gave me a heart for that. I guess, it's like realize that, yeah, not just gonna let him sit around. I did try to force the upgrade, get a Moab shove, though he did end up getting Rocket Storm, so it ended up actually profiting off of, that rush. So it was definitely worth sending, even though, again, I didn't really gain too much. And he's still not sending like anything at me. I have a terrible weakness to, fortified, Moab rushes right now. He could definitely like sell a Chinook, spam those at me, and I would have a hard time defending that. It'd probably force me to sell my Monkey Town and get like a few overdrives under a jungle drums, but he's just straight up not doing anything. So like by this point in the match, I figured that the snowball effect was way too strong with, his Chinooks right now, so I ended up getting a Monkey Town, a Monkey City on round 19. That's probably the earliest Monkey City I've actually gotten. Most of my opponents, I usually can't do that, as they're too aggressive. If I did that, I'd died next round. But yeah, it's just whatever, he doesn't seem too interested in rushing me just like at one bit. So again, his snowball effect right now is too strong. He already has 3 Chinooks. He's getting his 4th one down. So I figured that, yeah, I'm definitely gonna need as much money as possible for the inevitable late game, unfortunately. At this point, I just figured you probably defend any rush I actually send at him. I actually end up having to get a overdrive just simply to defend the mob, the natural mob that comes out around 20. If that natural mob didn't come out, I probably wouldn't even have bothered, upgrading to overdrive. Although I will say, I think this is probably the one and only time I was actually kind of excited to go late game, simply just because I was kind of curious to see, if Tack-Ice Village could beat Darling Engineer Heli late game. Seeing as, the late game for Darling Engineer Heli in my mind is pretty good. I'm not sure how good it'd be in practice, simply just because, you have, like, Ultra Boost and Mad. And I assume, Ultra Boost and Mad in the same loadout would be incredibly strong. Heli doesn't really do much. I've heard that like Apache Prime isn't really worth going for, and it's not like that great. Hopefully NK does buff the other helipads, because even like now after the Chinook nerf, like Chinook is still like outclasses, like bottom and top path still. So hopefully NK will like fix that and just hopefully buff the other helipads in the future. Tower balance is still something I think NK should focus a bit more on, but I guess for now it's not like egregious, but it definitely isn't as good as it should be. So it's around 23. I'm sitting on like $15,000 at this point. I'm just like saving up enough to actually beat DDTs. Hopefully just to deter a rush, because he definitely could send a very large rush at me when round 26 comes over. I even am selling Monkey Town in order to actually buy more overdrives. I mean, like, if he really wanted to, he could probably spam fortified ZOMGs at me, and I probably wouldn't even be able to defend without, like, tax zone or something. Which, again, it would take me a few seconds to actually save up for, seeing as I only have 3k eco, and I don't even have, like, an embrittlement yet. Unfortunately, Churchill's in the same spot where I actually put my embrittlement, so I kind of have to improvise of where I actually do want to put embrittlement. This isn't really the most optimal place, but, it's going to have to do for now. So, again, yeah. Churchill definitely don't use Churchill with this strategy. I sent this guy a ZOMG just again to have him do something. He probably can't defend a ZOMG right now. He could probably, break it down, but looking at his defense, he definitely doesn't actually need to do something. I do know that he wasn't able to defend, which he ends up getting mad. So again, I still ended up profiting off of this, again, the ZOMG send, because I forced him to upgrade. So, and even though he didn't end up defending that easily, I did force him to do something, which is definitely what you want to do with your opponent. Is just force them to do something. Even if they do defend, it's probably always worth like actually sending a rush, because you can probably profit out that rush. They might have to spend more money like to defend than you do to actually spend. So anyways, I've just kind of reached the point where it's just like, build as much eco as money and possible to actually, defend bads. I don't actually have to worry about bads for another 5 rounds. Hopefully I can actually get tax zone by then. That's definitely a must. I'm not really sure if I'd get super brittle as well, as super brittle did get a price nerf. Not in the most recent update, but a few updates ago. They increased the price from 28,000 to 32,000. That was always kind of a weird like change to me, because I didn't really feel like super brittle was incredibly overpowered, but hey, it's whatever, I guess. I guess it's to prevent players from being able to afford tax zone and brittle by round 30, but I feel like you still can if you like optimized your I guess eco gains, but again it's kind of whatever. So at this point I just assume that player over here is going to focus on getting his ultra boost and getting as many stacks on his mad as he can, since mad's kind of his, I guess, will be his main DPS late game, assuming he has all the other tier 5s. Bez can't hit DDTs, so he's gonna have to rely on Mad to pop DDTs. Ray Doom is more for super ceramic cleanup than I would say Moab damage, although it can be used for Moab damage if I'm being completely honest here. And he's still not really sending anything like any DTs at me, like not even fortified, because I mean he's just kind of letting me just like kind of sit here. I do kind of do like that. So again, also rushing him was going to be something I was going to have to worry about, since he has heli farming. He won't lose too much, I guess, eco from just like sending like fortified bads out. I do have to be a bit more careful and actually rush him when I like kind of think when I think he's actually going to be able to die to fortified bats, since it's going to tank my eco, and I do need as much eco as possible to actually afford everything I can. I don't even have tax zone or homeland, although I did just afford super brittle, so hopefully that will be enough to pop the bound round 30. I think the round 30 bad has like 12k HP. I think in a past update, NK did reduce like the round 30 bad's HP because the bad on round 30's HP was ridiculously hard to defend at that point. It was probably hard to defend than like a round 32 bad, like around 33 bad. So they did reduce the HP of the round 30 bad, but you know, to compensate for that, what they did is they like increased ramping. So that's why, you know, ramping is like incredibly strong by now. So he ends up getting XXXL trap. So he's safe from pretty much every DET rush. So and that's kind of a bit of a hurdle me to jump over, but again, you know, I'll make it work. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm actually kind of considering going back to my like original strat that I played back when Battles 1, Battles 2 first came out, which was NG Ice Village. Kind of a meme strat and a half, it basically is, but it was kind of fun to play, even though I didn't really get very far with it. I just made it to mob pit, but even still, I was kind of happy with that strategy. Anyways, I stopped sending eco because again, I was just kind of worried about him sending a rush at me. And it's kind of saving for, I guess, just kind of whatever. I wasn't really sure what round I wanted to rush him on, preferably, you know, sooner rather than later. But seeing as, you know, he has overclock and he's starting to work on his bez at the moment, I figured it probably wasn't worth, you know, wasting my eco in order to actually rush him. If I probably could have kept ecoing even more just to, I guess, just accrue more money faster, hopefully. But 50,000 saved up is pretty decent. Now, Churchill at this point is actually kind of useless, as, again, you know, Gwen would be better simply just because he increased damage to lead balloons. I was considering rushing with fortified bads here, but, you know, I saw that he got his bez up, and I figured it might not even be worth it at this point. It'd probably just be worth it, you know, maybe to wait, you know, maybe 1 or 2 rounds in order to actually send. I sent 1 fortified bad out just to see if that, how far that gets. I did see he got laser cannon up, so I assumed he was going for Ray of Doom. So if I'd figure that, you know, it'd probably be better to rush him now, because if he gets to Ray of Doom, I probably can't beat him out at late game. My eco isn't like ideal for the late game or defending too much, and I definitely don't have enough overdrives in order to actually be able to defend. So again, absolute 0 in the back just in case he decides to counter rush with some fortified DET. Also, primary mentoring for the free attack upgrades, even though it really won't help out too much because at this point I have such insane eco that doesn't really, well, I wouldn't really say insane eco, but I have so much money that doesn't really matter at this point. And surprisingly, the bad is getting a lot farther than I originally thought. I didn't even think that, you know, there's actually going to be enough to actually kill him, so I sent out another fortified bad, and just like that, he ends up dying to fortified DTs. I guess he didn't put his XXL trap, you know, back far enough. Well, actually his XXL trap can't even see camo, so I guess GG. Alright, so this next match here was, I guess, let's say at least, was a bit more exciting. It was against a very, very aggressive player, which is, again, is my favorite type of player. This was also recorded before the most recent buff, so unfortunately long range doesn't give, you know, +1 pierce. I was actually kind of surprised when I saw it in the patch notes. I kind of just assumed that, you know, long range like automatically has +1 pierce from the beginning of the game, but I guess not. I was just kind of surprised. I was like, oh, long range is now +1 pierce, huh? So I guess I've just been wasting money by getting longer range and like not just straight up rushing cantrip, whatever. Thankfully, he was going space eco in the beginning. Space eco does a bit better against boat, as again, you know, without the +1 pierce from long range. Boat does struggle to group to reds, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's just kind of whatever. I guess he sends out, I guess for boomer starts, you send out space deco into, I guess, a second boomerang, just in case. I do know that with boomer starts, you do want to rush ricochet as fast as possible, although I'm not really sure he would really get there. He sends out, you know, like space yellows my way, so it's just kind of like, whoa, this guy's doing quite a lot at the beginning of the game. I was kind of curious to see, you know, if he was sending, you know, spaced yellows at me just for, I guess, you know, pressure or something, but I guess not, as he ends up, you know, switching to grouped blues almost immediately after. He definitely could have kept the pressure up. I probably would have been forced like to sell open to like get a cantrip or something, but I guess it's kind of whatever. It's a good thing for me that he didn't. It also forced me to get top path, which I don't necessarily want, as I do think it's better to go for bottom path, because, well, now in the most recent update you get +1 pierce. You also get an innate camo detection, where if you go top path you do have to sell the boat in order to actually get camo detection, which of course isn't really ideal, but it's just kind of whatever, I guess. So I'm just letting this guy chill for now. Since I don't actually have to, afford a village in time, there's no real reason for me to actually, send white balloons or black balloons. So I guess that's, kind of one upside with going this strategy is that, your two main DPS towers, can already detect camo naturally. So there isn't a real reason to go space Deka, so I can just focus on sending greens. I could probably go for like 1,000 ego if I ended up wanting to, but I still, do have to defend white balloons that come out this round. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, so I ended up just getting like a double shot preemptively. It also sends blacks, which is also a bit worrying, as well as, of course, the cannonball from cannon chip can't pop black, so I do have to rely on the darts and the, and the flaming grapes in order to actually pop black balloons. So I did it a lot better against black balloons than I thought I was going to, but hey, I guess that's kind of what it is. Cannon chip is actually fairly good early game. It's also pretty good when alk buffed as well. I learned that when I was watching the early access footage a lot of YouTubers got to. I think Aliens Rock was the one that did, like boat out combo and showed that, like, that's actually pretty good early game. So this guy is going boomer into wizard. Again, this was a pretty interesting, as I wasn't really like 100% sure what his strat was going to be. I do like to try to guess what my opponent's strat's going to be based off like the few towers they put down. Again, it's a lot harder to do than you might think it is, simply just because there aren't really too many, like, I guess, meta strats, as there really is just kind of one meta strat, and then there's just like a few meta towers, with, boomer being one of them. Wizard's kind of a mid-tier tower, it's kind of meh, so I guess there's that. Although Wizard did receive some nice buffs in the most recent update, mainly to the arcane spike. I also believe, I think Middle Path got some buffs, although I can't quite remember. So he ends up going for Shimmer. I was actually I was quite confused when I saw this. I was like, isn't it a bit early to go for Shimmer right now, as you don't have to worry about camos until like 2 rounds later. So, but then, I realized that, oh yeah, Necromancer exists. Necromancer is also fairly good, and I had to myself worry about camos, seeing as, I currently have no camo detection since I had to go top path boat for the early game. Although I was hoping that, he wouldn't really notice and that I can just get away with, not actually doing anything. So I hovered my mouse over that and just hope and pray that, he actually ends up not noticing. But I still get camo detection, I guess, preemptively, as he does send some camo purples my way. So I guess I did do a sort of good thing by baiting the rush out. Thankfully, he didn't like go all in, but it was kind of whatever. I accidentally sell Oben simply just because I was actually trying to get that one boat above Oben, but I ended up clicking on Oben and ended up selling him. Thankfully, it doesn't really matter too much, as I don't have to won't really utilize ninjas until later on anyway. Instead of getting my cannon check back, I probably figured it would probably been better to go straight for a destroyer. I think that's his leads he's sending at me, and leads of course don't really do anything because Oben can pop leads. So he's not sending any eco at me, so I assumed he was going for a rush, even though I still keep ecoing anyways because I'm fairly confident in my defense. Alk buff destroyer is a fairly strong combo for the early game, and so as well as cannon chip as well. So I was kind of confident, seeing just how well that these two towers do, and you'll see here a bit more in the future. He ends up sending like a Regen Rainbow Rush, or not Regen Rainbow, Regen Ceramic Rush, and so I end up having to boost to defend, and I defend, pretty nicely. I almost leaked, but again, I was overall happy with just how well I did. I ended up getting a tier 4 alk buff just so that way, Alchemist has almost full uptime on both cannon chip and destroyer. So he ends up getting a Morglaives and a Necromancer. So I was definitely going to rush him next round to force him to actually get some Moab defense, as I don't really think he could pop a Moab at the current moment. He ends up selling his Necromancer for an even stronger Regent Ceramic Rush. And so here I boost yet again, and Destroyer and Cannon Chip easily pops it. I did get a Ninja at the bottom. I was trying to get a Bloon Jutsu, but ultimately it wasn't even necessary. Destroyer and Cannon Chip easily was able to defend this rush, which was kind of surprising. So anyways, that's the end of the video. If you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, join Discord. Link is down below in the description.